Hello, hello, beautiful humans. Wow, I am going live from Costa Rica, and I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a full-on sound of cicadas who are just singing at the top of their lungs. I actually don't know if they have lungs. But they are really loud. So I would love to get some feedback from you, how you can hear me. It's really quite a special life in the jungle. I am here sitting with complete view of the jungle and the sea and the wildlife and the insects and the birds and the monkeys and the raccoons. Everyone is around. So how is the sound? Loud and clear. Okay, super. I'm also using the mic, that helps. Okay, my love, so I wanted to take some time to share with you about where I'm even coming from, what's my background, and also specifically how my journey has been so deeply connected, like my empowerment was so deeply connected with my erotic embodiment and spiritual refinement, and how these experiences, these practices have been completely life-changing in my life. And I want to give you some tools and share with you some opportunities to work together and to create, to go on this journey for you. Yeah. So welcome everyone who is joining live. Welcome to everyone who is watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, I would love to know if you watch the replay. If you're with me live, please give me feedback, engage with me, interact with me, let me know how what I'm sharing with you is touching you, how it's impacting you, how it's opening you, how it's confronting you, all the things. So just yesterday I made a post with my recent image and also an image of me that was taken 15 years ago. And when I look at this woman 15 years ago, I have so much compassion in my heart for her. I look at her and I feel a woman who is lost, a woman who is depressed or actually being on the verge of depression pretty much the entire time. I see a woman who is constantly concerned about her looks, who is constantly concerned about her weight, who is sometimes emotionally overeating, but even more importantly, she is so disconnected from her emotions and from the life that flows through her body that she accumulates that weight in her body, that water, that extra water, because this is what it is, that extra water, that kind of puffiness. This is unprocessed, unaddressed, unacknowledged emotions and lack of capacity to let the life flow through, lack of access to inner fire. And I see a woman who is looking for herself, but in all the wrong places. And oh my gosh, I've come so far, so far. It's like this woman 15 years ago, it feels like it's another lifetime, you know. It doesn't even feel like this lifetime. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I really have to tune into her to remember that life. In that life, I could not speak. Doing something like this would be, like I wouldn't even conceptualize something like that. Like being here with people, even though we are alive, but you are real people there. Each one of you is a real person. And, you know, seeing the number of people here, I would be scared. I wouldn't be able to say a word. I was studying law in the uni, and the reason why I was studying law was because I was miserable at math, and so I was looking for studies in uni that didn't require to pass maths exam, because I was miserable at math. I'm still not very good at counting, but I was looking, that's how I chose, basically. This is how a 15-year-old chooses her future profession. And I thought that that's going to make me rich, basically. I thought if you're a lawyer, it's like sounds like a solid, decent profession that will make me wealthy and so on. Oh my gosh. So back then, yeah, studying law, I also had to speak in front of people to present different material. Then also working as a lawyer, I also sometimes had to speak in front of people. And each time there would be like more than two people, even already two people were already edgy, but more than two people and more, it was terrifying. Like I literally would choke. I would not be able to say a word. I would not be able to say anything. It was just like I would stand up, like, you know, the teacher would ask me to speak, or I would need to present in front of my coworkers, and I'm standing up and I'm starting to speak, and then there's like, there's no word. There's no one word that wants to come through. Oh my gosh. So if any one of you has ever experienced having your throat blocked, I know how it feels. Now I'm speaking in front of so many people. I've had groups with hundreds and hundreds of people in front of me. Now my work has been spread all over the whole planet. The number of people that I've impacted directly who have been in my direct containers, not just following me on social media or being on my mailing list, like people who've been in my containers, is now over 50,000 people, both in my in-person and my online containers. Over 50,000 people. Now this voice is free. Now I'm expressing freedom. Back then, I remember there was 1 month that I got as a lawyer with my bonuses. I got like $5,000, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. That would be amazing if I could make that again in a month. And I was thinking that, oh my gosh, if one day I were to make 100,000 in a year, oh my gosh, maybe like when I'm really older and somehow that happens, that would be an amazing experience to have once in my life. Now we are not even in the end of January. My business has crossed 100,000 just this month alone. And this is a normal this is a standard thing that my business does. The change, there's something that felt so impossible, so far out. No, I didn't even conceptualize it's possible in a month. My relationships with men were so miserable, it's ridiculous. Like, I always wanted a relationship with men because this is what we do as women. Love is always at the center of our lives, and I was the same. I've always wanted a relationship, and that's why I've put myself into so many very strange situations with men, where I felt miserable, where I felt unseen, where I felt treated badly, where I felt disrespected, where I felt unacknowledged, where I felt lost, when also I didn't have any orgasms until I was like 23 or something. And I didn't even think that I had a problem. Yeah, I didn't, because when you are on the inside of it, you may not even realize that there is another life that's available. And so I was on the inside of it. I didn't even think that it could be different. I didn't even allow myself to be in that expansion. There was no such option. It was not modeled for me. It was not what people were doing. So now I am in the most gorgeous relationship of my life with a man with whom we are actually supporting each other's highest path. And we are not here to trigger each other and to stir up each other's deepest wounds, but healing happens, evolution happens, but more so through the space of safety, through the space of love, through the space of respect, appreciation. And my sexual life is thriving. I reach states of expanded awareness through my sexuality, not even saying about the orgasms. I've written a book that's actually called Liberation into Orgasm. And I know that actually me connecting to my core, to my womanhood, to my body, to my eroticism was the thing that shifted all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. That creative potential, that capacity to speak, directly related. Yeah, the throat and our sexuality, directly related. Capacity to create, capacity to attract success, to be magnetic, to create a life of abundance. All of that, I see all of that is rooted in that, in the unlocking the erotic embodiment. And I want to share with you how you can do that for yourself. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. I want to take you on a journey with me. Because sometimes it's hard to see. Yeah? You see the success, you see the thing that I am sharing on social media, you see me shining, you see me succeeding, you see me impacting thousands and thousands of people, you see my voice being heard, you see people being touched, people being moved, people's lives being changed. But where did it all come from? Has it always been like that? And the answer is no. And that's why I want to tell this story, so that it really humanizes all these things. You really see the human that I am and how far I've come. And no matter where you are at, I want this to be a permission, a reminder, a confirmation for you that you can have it all. You can have it all. There's no such thing that you come from a strange kind of difficult upbringing, difficult background. Because if you look at my life, like, if I look at my childhood, and I've had some really difficult things in my childhood to overcome. If you look not even only at my childhood, but also at my lineage, what people in my lineage had to face, you see like a prescription for a life of disaster. Because we are all connected. We're not only connected to what we experienced in our lives, but actually to what our ancestors have been through. And when I look at that, it's like, it's a prescription for a disaster. If I did not make certain choices at certain pivotal points in my life, if certain events didn't come and wake me up, and if I didn't act on those things, I have no idea where I would be right now. So, are you in with me for the ride into my journey? Are you open to receive it? So, a really big thing that really shook me up was one particular day. And at that time, it was my first year as a lawyer. It was kind of the last year of my uni and then the first year of my job. And I had a really special friend. He was also my best friend, and also my boss, my first boss. So he hired me for my first job, although I was completely insecure when I was going through the interviews for my job, with this blocked throat, I couldn't even explain things about myself. But he hired me and he became my really, really close friend. And he was also kind of like my first spiritual teacher, because he also gave me books of Carlos Castaneda. He got me. We could talk about things that you don't really talk to normal people about. And I've always had questions but what are we actually made of? But who are we actually? But what is this whole life is actually about? And people would tell me, you ask too much. You ask too many questions. But with him, we could have those conversations. I felt met. I felt gotten by him. And we were inseparable. We were spending so much time together. We were working together, we were partying together. Just this bond was incredible. And then one day I went to party, because that's what I did. I was studying in this, I finished my studies in this very prestigious university in Russia. And what you do when you are a cool kid, you party. You wear cool clothes, you wear Prada, you wear Gucci, and you party. That's what you do. And I hated parties. I felt so bored at parties. I didn't know where to put myself. But that's what cool kids seem to be doing, so I was doing it as well. And I was so bored, so I was drinking. So I was drinking, partying, and drinking, smoking, of course. Smoking was fashionable, so I was, like that. And so I was at this party, was bored. At 5 a.m, I'm back home, and I go to sleep, and then I wake up from a phone call, and I'm like, oh gosh, forgot to switch off my phone. And I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up. And I'm picking it up, and I see like that someone is calling me, a person who never called me. And this phone call changed my life. So I look at the phone and I'm like, why is he calling me? And this was a roommate of Misha, of this best friend of mine. He never called me. And it was one and the only time in my whole life he called me. And then I'm like, okay, I'll pick up the phone. I pick up the phone, and then he tells me words that will forever be imprinted on my soul. He tells me something that changed my life once and for all. And he says, Sofia, I have bad news. Misha died. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I just saw him like yesterday or 2 days ago. I just saw him. What are you talking about? But I was just startled. I was just like, what? And he said a few more things. I don't remember what he was saying, but he explained something. And then I hang up. We agreed to talk later probably. We hang up. And then I walk towards my wardrobe to get some clothes. I'm not breathing. I'm just kind of walking and thinking like, okay, the next thing I just need to get dressed. So I'm going to the wardrobe. I'm opening the door of my wardrobe. I'm taking some clothes in my hands, and then I crash. I crash, and I'm like, oh my gosh. This is crazy. It felt like it was the end, because this man was everything for me. No one else could understand me like he did. And that was it. It was finished. He was no longer there. He was nowhere to be found. And then something very interesting started happening. That I started to behave in a way that I've never behaved in my life. Because until then, everyone knew me as kind of being, like I was a lot in my princess energy. Yeah, those of you who read me writing about it, I was a lot in my princess energy. I was quite helpless. I was very fragile, or so I believed. And then with that event, with his death, I accessed like I was moved by like an invisible force. I was organizing all the things about his funeral. I was talking to the people in our office. I was explaining to everyone. I was holding space for people because everyone was shaken by that, because he was such a pillar for many people. And I was just like organizing it all. From somewhere, I found this intelligence, I found this direction, I found this clarity, and I was just moving as if taken by an invisible force. You know, it's like those stories when the child is about to be hit by a car and the mother comes out of nowhere and she pushes the car away, something like that. So it was wild. It was wild. I didn't know myself. Like, no one knew me like that. Everyone was a bit startled, like why I was doing like that. I was organizing with his family so that his family was getting his money, so it was not getting disappearing because they lived in a different place. I was organizing travel. I was like on a mission. Like, I knew this was the dearest person in my life, and I was gonna do everything for those who cared for him to support this process. So that was really wild. And after that, life started to take a different meaning. After that, I started to do some things I never dared to do before. I was doing like wild, adventurous things. Sometimes, like, I was like walking on the edge quite a few times. Like, I was putting myself in strange situations sometimes, but I was like reckless. I was traveling a lot. I went to India by myself. None of my friends wanted to go. I was like climbing rooftops and doing crazy things, just like getting to that sense of life myself. And that's what I realize now, that his death gave me life. It was so difficult, it was so horrible. It was one of the most painful things in my whole entire life I had to face. And it gave me life. And then I got really into yoga, especially in India. I really got like into yoga. I started to feel different. I remember going to India and getting really into like practice, and then coming back to Russia, to Moscow, and having cigarettes in my bag, and then I couldn't even touch those cigarettes because something was being cleansed in my system. I was getting more access to my higher self. I was getting more access to my inner knowing, to my inner wisdom, and just the wrong things were just falling away. And I was traveling a lot. I really felt I didn't belong in that country. I didn't feel like I had some good friends, a few good friends, but it didn't feel like it was my place. And every time I could escape, I would escape. And at that time, I was working already at my second job. Thank you so much for resonating and for your compliments. So I was already working at the second job, and I couldn't care less about it. Like, I didn't care about my clients at that job. I didn't care about any of the culture of that company. I didn't resonate with any of it. I was just there to make money. And every time I would make money, just my salary, I would just flush it straight away because I would go and travel. And sometimes I would travel and I would take 1 extra day, 2 extra days, then I would lie and say that I was sick or something like that. And then one day I'm coming back from a travel, I'm like late, but I think like, okay, anyway, I'll tell them I was sick or something, I didn't feel so well. I walk into the office, it's late, it's like 11, maybe later. People are really looking at me in silence. People are just silently looking. And I'm like, something is weird here. And then I go further, and then they tell me, can we have your passport, please? And I'm like, huh? Why do you need my passport? And they're like, yeah, just like this, just please give us your passport. And in a passport, you have all the stamps when you travel. And I was kind of traveling illegally, I was taking extra days from my job. So I'm like, okay. So I give my passport and I go forward to the room where I worked. And I look at my desk. And everything becomes clear because my desk is empty. My desk is empty. And then they say, yeah, you're fired. Without any notice, just kicked out like that. I didn't have any savings. I was just flushing my salary like that. And yes, busted. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And I'm like, try to look for the same job. And then I'm looking for the same job, and I'm like, I hate this. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? There's nothing to do. It is just terrible. I was cornered completely. And I started to really spiral down. I was partying again. I was drinking with my friend, with my other best friend. There was nothing better to do. We were just sitting and drinking together. And I was getting more and more depressed, more and more cornered by life. I had no idea. I was like, I cannot go to the same kind of job. I cannot. I was thinking, I don't want to live like that. I want to disappear. This is not a life. And there was no other option. There were no other people around me who were doing any kind of different things. All there was just this path. You go, you study, you get a job, you get married, and move on. So then I started to think, okay, what is my problem? And I thought, okay, my problem is that I don't have a man. As I told you, relationship is always in the center of a woman's life. So I was like, my problem is that I don't have a man. I want to have a man. If I had a man, there won't be any problems. Interesting, yeah. But society makes us believe those things. I thought if I had love, I would be happy. And I think there was some truth in that. Although I thought that love would be given to me from the outside, from a man who chose me, finally, after all the men who wouldn't want to choose me. But that love was not meant to come from that place. But anyway, one day I'm like completely crushed, and I had another very difficult experience in that phase, which is like, I should tell it another time, but it was really like I created a really traumatic experience for myself, like really bad actually. And so I am pretty depressed, and I'm like one day like, okay, I'll go on Google, and I go on Google and I type how to get more self-confident, because I thought that if I were more self-confident, then more men would be interested in me. And so I type how to get more self-confidence. And by some mysterious thing, besides all the crappy advice that you get randomly on the internet, I get a hold of a really advanced material, which I even realize now that it's really high-level material. It was a book by a Russian author called Vadim Zeland, which is quantum physics, basically. He doesn't call it like this, but it's a book about creating your reality. It's about how we, with our energy, with our emotions, with our frequency, create our life. So I was reading this book, and I closed myself in my room, and I was like, what is this? How come no one is screaming about this from the rooftops? This is incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell everyone. But I was like, no, I cannot tell anyone, because maybe they won't understand it. Maybe I won't be able to explain it properly. So let me just take it in. And I'm taking it in, and all I'm reading is that you are the creator of your reality. You can access human potential. This is how you develop human potential. I'm like, what? In a matter of a week, I had people reaching out to me, offering me job. And then I had to really think about, like, okay, what do I want to do? And then all I knew, I needed to leave that country. I needed to go travel, because that was my happy place. I needed to go, it's called, the author is Vadim Zeland. There are many beautiful books on creating your reality, but this is one of the beautiful books. Vadim Zeland. It's called Transurfing of Reality. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is completely incredible. So I am reading this book, and I am then understanding that I need to connect with what I want. I need to connect with what I actually want, because then if I don't know what I want, then I'm swayed by life in all sorts of directions. So I need to connect with what I want. And then I was like, okay, I want to go travel to India, and I want to practice yoga. I want to practice meditation. There is something, it does good to me. Somehow it connects me. It gives me some kind of space where I can be the weirdo I am and think about all these things that I've been thinking about since I'm a child. Like, what am I made of? What is the soul? What is the true purpose of life? So I understood that that's what I wanted. And then, in a matter of a week, me just connecting to my own frequency, to my own energy, taking responsibility for my life and for how I create my life with my emotions, with my thoughts. Boom, people appeared, offered me a job, just like that. I make the money, I made like $3,000, and all I did, I bought the ticket, one-way ticket to India, and off I went. That was a massive, massive thing. And then I find myself in India. It was beautiful, but I only had a month there because my visa expired and I had to go elsewhere. And then I chose to go to Thailand because I heard that they do some yoga there. And in Thailand, I arrive and people tell me, yes, we do yoga here, but even better, we practice Tantra. And I'm like, Tantra, oh my gosh, it's about sex, orgies, not into it. They're like, no, not this kind of Tantra. You might want to join the workshop. It starts tomorrow. What an accident! It starts tomorrow. And I'm like, well, sounds really weird. And then I say, I don't know, I'm going. I don't want this strange kind of orgy, Tantra stuff, whatever. I go home, and the whole night I cannot quite let go of that thought. And I'm like, okay, I think I need to go there. In the morning, I'm sitting on my scooter, driving through the jungle, I need to be here. I come, I'm like, I don't know if they'll let me in. I need to be there. I don't know why. I don't know. It's weird. It's crazy, but whatever. I come and I say, please let me in. I know it's late, but they're like, it's okay, come. I'm like, wow, okay. And then the whole thing begins. It begins because the teacher starts telling that my search for intimacy, for closeness, for love has been the most right thing in my whole entire life. I get so much confirmation of what I felt deep down, but never dared to express, never dared to talk to anyone because I thought I was a weirdo. Or whenever I would try to talk to people, they would say, these are strange things you want to talk about. And here I'm getting confirmation after confirmation that yes, there is a whole spiritual path that actually embraces all the energy, that actually teaches you how to cultivate energy, which actually invites you to go right into your body, connect with your sexuality, unlock your sexuality, and use that energy for your empowerment, for your spiritual awakening, for your manifestation, for your success, for your joy, for your everything, for your supreme destiny. This is what I find out. And I'm like, what? I knew all of that deep inside all along. I knew it all. And here I'm just getting confirmation. And again, confirmation that the best connection you can have with another person is through the heart. And I'm like, that's what I've always wanted. That you can just be with someone and feel each other's hearts and connect to the level of the heart and really create a genuine connection, not just some kind of superficial stuff in the parties. Try to say something about yourself to be kind of special. Here you actually are invited to drop all the masks, release all the tension, all the tightness of trying to be somebody, and you are invited to be yourself. And when you do that, you connect to your innermost truth, innermost depth, and from this place, you meet life. From this place, you meet reality. From this place, you are actually in communion, in connection with people around you, with life, with love, and even, may I say, with God. How I supported my travels, I just shared that there was a moment when actually people appeared and offered me a job, and I had just enough to go. And currently I'm in Costa Rica. Oh, well, that began a massive journey for me. And for a long time I was like, okay, I'm like really expanded by that. But then I was still like on and off, because like there was some things that I didn't quite resonate with. And yeah, I was like on and off, but still I stayed. And then I ended up going very deep into yoga. I was practicing like 6-8 hours of meditation, of yoga every day. I was doing so many silent meditation retreats. I was doing sometimes 5-6 silent meditation retreats in like 10-day long, sometimes 17-day long. I ended up being exposed to other set of very powerful teachings about inner space, accessing inner space, cultivating the inner space, tuning in from the inner space with all of life, very advanced meditation techniques. I then ended up in Colombia, where I was initiated into the wisdom of nature by a shaman who discovered Shambhala, nothing less than Shambhala in the Andes. Oh my gosh, this journey has been incredible. And in 2012, I started teaching. So 11 years ago, I started facilitating. And first, these were yoga classes, meditation classes. Then it was feminine, sacred feminine work, sacred feminine dance. In my first class, there were 2 women. In my second class, there were 3 women. In my third class, there was 1 woman. And in my fourth class, there were 12 women. Because they asked me actually to teach them about the yoni egg and sacred sexuality for women. 12 women all of a sudden. And I was then running a retreat It was all, then I got married also in the meantime, and my ex-husband had a yoga deck in Thailand, right on the jungle, and I was holding all my events there, and then I had my retreat there, my first retreat with 5 women. Some of these women are still in my field, they're still coming to my events now, 11 years later. And then later I also had a 3-week-long journey, Sacred Feminine Immersion for women, back in 2013. I also was I keep continuing my own studies, my own evolution, because it never ends actually. During that time I was in an 8-month-long meditation retreat, which was full on, so transformational, so challenging, so revealing. So yeah, I did not learn from books. That's what I have to say. I did not learn from books. I learned from my direct experiences through meditation. There were moments in meditation that really changed me. When I was in my first meditation retreat and I could not sit still, I could not keep my eyes closed, I could not be not distracted by little noises here and there. I was constantly moving, but still in that retreat there was a moment, in the break, all of a sudden I was kissed by grace. And I had a moment, which I don't know if it was a moment, I don't know if it was an hour, I don't know if it was a few seconds, but I entered into a state of bliss. And and I was laughing. I was so blissful. I was laughing. It was the most beautiful experience in my life at that time. And that put me on the path. And I knew there's no turning back for me. No turning back. Now I'm 36. And all of that was happening when I was in my early 20s. And yeah, that's been the journey. And since then, as I said, today I'm a published author. My book became a bestseller in 24 hours. I've worked directly with over 50,000 people. My business brings millions every year, a bit more than a million every year in the last 2 years. This work is impacting so many people. So much change has happened. So many families have been formed. So many relationships have been formed. So many people left their unhealthy relationships, left their unhealthy situations. So many people have been mentored by me to discover the depth in themselves. And erotic empowerment is a huge, huge piece of my work, together with spiritual refinement. Yeah, it's not just about activating yourself in going into catharsis and feeling the pleasure, and this is not it. Yeah, it has to be paired with spiritual awakening, with recognizing the depth, the truth of existence. This is what I bring into every my container. And I have lots of different things. Like I have Come My Love program, which has created so many relationships as for women who are looking for true love, for a sacred union kind of relationship in their life. And this program is launching tomorrow. And I have many other programs, but I also have in-person experiences. This year there's one in-person experience, one in-person immersion. In the past, I was running them every month. I got so into my in-person events because there's nothing like it. Imagine you stop your whole life, you get out of your life, you put all the busyness of life on pause, and you find yourself in this immersive environment with people who are drawn by the same kind of principles. For people who are not there just to chit-chat and find each other. Sometimes we go through the whole thing, you may not even know what the people are doing, but you come in as strangers and then you leave as best friends. And so many friendships have been created in these immersions. So many deep relationships have been created in these immersions. So many people found their beloved, so many people found their eternal friends. The closeness on which we work together, I've never seen that anywhere else. Sometimes I wish to be held in a space like that, and I try to go to events, but it's never that. Because over these years, I've been refining these immersions with so much care, with so much precision, that now what we are experiencing, there's nothing like that. You know, even I say that it's not that you just make friends and you just hang out with interesting people who, you know, there maybe some people find their clients, some people find people there connected in very, very deep ways. Some people then, through the work that we are doing there, then they change their businesses, and yeah, you change your life. But what happens with these people is that they even become soul family. It's not just friends. It actually we become so close. It's like soul family. That's how I refer to it. So these immersions, yeah, it's like you speed up time, like it's impossible in the online world. Like, you know, I have lots of online events, and it's good, but sometimes you have like a 6-week long process, and then you already forgot what was there in the previous module because there was so much happening in your life. When you are in person, we are like boom, together in this density, in this condensed space. It's this accelerated evolution. It's practically impossible in any other scenario. Yeah, you're there in this condensed bubble of depth, of transformation, of fire, of love. And the safety that I bring now into these containers, it's like you feel so held, you feel so loved. The next immersion that I'm doing is here in Costa Rica. I'm basically like a few kilometers away from where we are running our next immersion. And there we're also surrounded by complete luxury, by complete richness of life. It's like, you know, everything is buzzing, just nature, but also you add exquisitely created, beautiful environment, of course, exquisite food, exquisite service. All of that creates such a relaxation for the nervous system, such a safety, that in this kind of space, you cannot help it. You just go so deep. And you heal things that in other conditions might take years to heal. You transform, all the clicks are happening at hyper speed. So this is coming up. Yeah, we have mystery immersion, my only mystery immersion for this year. Yeah, there's nothing else in plans yet. And we have a journey here in April. So if you want to do something really extraordinary for your transformation, look into it. Look into it. It's by application only. I need to know you. I need to feel you before we accept you. But it's open. We are meeting here in April. We are coming here in the end of April. However, another element that I'm adding to the immersion is that we have some time online before the immersion, so that we do all the stuff, like all the kind of surface stuff, all the preparation stuff, we do it before we meet. So that when we meet, we are like all so ready, so open, so connected to each other. So in the weeks before, we're meeting like once a week online to create community, to create connection, and also to prepare the body, because the work we are doing in person is so powerful. We need to be ready for it. We need to be ready on the physical level, on the energetical, on the emotional, on the mental, on the spiritual level. We have to prepare. So we are preparing first. It's not going to be taking a lot of time, but it's very necessary that we are held in that preparation container. Then we have 1 week in person, and then there's also time for integration, because big things will open up there. Big things will open up there. And you will still be held in the integration by me, by my team. And also when we are there, of course, you have personalized time, and incredible, incredible, beautiful work. So already really beautiful people have joined, extraordinary people have joined. And if you're feeling it, welcome to apply. There's a link in my bio, you will find Mystery Immersion in Costa Rica. Tremendous work on erotic embodiment, on spiritual refinement, and the rest is a mystery. And this is the invitation for you to remember the mystery that this life is, the exquisite mystery that this life is, that we can so easily forget in the mundane reality, in the day-to-day reality. But life is worth it. Life is worth living fully. So, beloveds, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for your feedback on my story. I'd love to know what really touched you, what really moved you. If Costa Rica Mystery Immersion is for you, go ahead, apply. And I may see some of you here pretty soon in Costa Rica. Have a beautiful day.